it's an awareness because those gatherers are out there and there's no sign saying, this happened here, this happened here, oh, there's pesticides here. There's no signs that tell us. We have to be thinking about the agricultural use that is happening in the area with the amount of vineyards that there are and other agricultural operations.
I think we've gotten so used to just having things at our fingertips, like, oh, if I just use this chemical, it's going to get rid of it. But something else will always take its place, or there's a consequence to that.
Hi, everyone. I'm Camilo Perez. I'm with the Quetzal Indian tribe. I'm the pesticide control officer. We all know pesticides help control unwanted pests, but what about their impact on us? While pesticides target pests, they can also be harmful to people and the environment. Here in California, tribal communities may face a unique exposure risk. Let's explore some examples.
So we have legacy pesticides that are in the lake from mosquito abatement that happened decades earlier. There's pesticide runoff that comes from agriculture and other uses, domestic uses, roadside uses that go into the lake. There's also pesticides that are used on the lake to eradicate various kinds of weeds, aquatic weeds, so that people can access their docks, marinas, and go boating on the lake. We do know that there are accumulations of some pesticides in the tules, the sediment, and the water, and also just that a tribal member could be exposed to pesticide use because of using the lake through traditional activities. Tribal members are continuing to fish from this lake and gather fruits as well. So some of the activities that happen in terms of sustenance is eating tules. That's a food source here, and using the tules for many different activities, cultural activities. There's also a lot of fishing that goes on, some for sport and fun, and some for consumption. We gather in areas that our traditional plants do not have a garden. Well, here in Southern California, we basically only use about 4 different materials. We use Juncus textus, which is a reed. We use deergrass as the filler that we weave around. And then for our start, we'll use a yucca thread, okay, that we pound the yucca through there as our heart of our basket. And then we'll use trislobata or sumac, okay, which is kind of the cousin to poison oak. And so in Northern California, they use a lot of roots. They use the willow roots. And so if you know, willows grow near the water. And so when the water rises in the rivers, the roots shoot out to get the waters. And so we use our mouth as a third hand. And so they'll chew on it, okay, or soften it. We're supposed to have our water there because everything has to be put in water to make it pliable and flexible. But sometimes, you'll run it through your mouth instead because we don't know what's out there, if it's been sprayed or not sprayed. Because once you spray it, we can't put it in our mouth, okay, to soften it.
Here in Santa Rosa, like sometimes they'll be like, oh, well, you're not an agricultural community, but you can go 2 miles in almost any direction and you're in vineyards or your cattle, or, well, that's an agricultural community. Like some of the aerial spraying that happens in our agriculture area that are close to homes, there's not enough consideration for that. So I know that's not directly in the home, but when you have these near homes, it is impacting people.
Because of the pesticides that are used agriculturally and where Big Valley is situated, we've actually had pesticide drift incidences. Since I've worked for the tribe, there's been multiple, and some of them have been pretty toxic pesticides, and that drifted onto tribal members and tribal staff in a really horrendous incident that happened over the decades, that the tribe was asked by the farmer neighbors, to please go inside because we're about to spray. So the reality of just regular pesticide exposures because of pesticide drift and runoff is something that I think everybody here at Big Valley is really used to.
Here in this area, we have a lot of moisture, so it's not uncommon that we end up with mold. But we also end up with spiders, rodents, mosquitoes, things that aren't atypical. I mean, they're typical what you would have in this area. And sometimes it's difficult if you have a house that doesn't breathe enough, have enough ventilation, then you end up with pest problems. Most things that you can buy over the counter or get from a place like Lowe's or Home Depot, a self-help store, and not uncommon to find Raid, room foggers, because ticks, but fleas are something that we have a lot around here as well. So you have room foggers, things that you can buy over the counter without requiring a license to apply. And I think part of this is when you can go into the grocery store and you can buy these things right off the shelf, you assume that they have some level of safety. And so we do try to remind people, you need to read the label. You need to be mindful that too much is harmful.
Pesticide exposure can affect our health in various ways. Symptoms can mimic the flu, allergies, or even heat stroke, making them difficult to recognize initially. These effects may not appear right away, sometimes taking days, months, or even years. For example, exposure to certain pesticides can lead to headaches, dizziness, nausea. In severe cases, it can affect your nervous system or cause respiratory problems.
My cousin and I were driving, delivering deer grass to other tribes. And we went by a roadside there. I saw a plant that was kind of right off the road, and I said, stop. I think that's one of our native plants. And the only way that you can identify that plant is that you have to break it and crack it and smell it. And what I did, thank goodness, I only took it up one nostril, because my cousin was looking at me. He says, oh my God, Diana, he says, your whole face is turning red. I didn't feel anything. I didn't feel any burning or anything like that. I says, okay. So we were close enough to Indian Health Council. So we drove over there, went in there, and they says, where were you, Diana? What did you do? And they can see where my face was red. And I told them what I had done. And they asked me where I was at, etc. And that's when I found out that golf courses are the worst ones to use pesticides, herbicides.
Sometimes these things mask as a cold, symptoms of cold, or you have a rash, like, oh, I think I touched something. I have a friend who has a son who is epileptic, and every time there's aerial spraying, he has episodes. His epileptic fits come on. The women and the weavers were getting sores in their mouth, okay, and they couldn't figure out why they were getting cancer around their mouth or their gums. Well, they didn't know that those roots were also being contaminated because they're getting that water that's coming through. But a lot of the weavers there are aware of what's happening, so they try not to get some of those roots or anything from the banks. I don't think that there's enough information out there for people to understand that if they think they've been made ill by a pesticide, that they really should report it to their physician. Because in the state of California, if you think you've been made ill by a pesticide, you report it to your physician. And you can ask them to fill out a pesticide illness report where they have to report it to Department of Pesticide Regulation.
It is vital, if you experience any discomfort after pesticide exposure, consult your doctor immediately. In emergencies, please call 911. You can also reach California Poison Control for expert advice at the number 1-800-222-1222. Thankfully, there are ways to reduce your risk. Always follow the label instructions, wear appropriate protective clothing when applying pesticides, and be aware of your surroundings. Consider safer alternatives to control pests whenever possible.
Some good alternatives that people have used for a very long time, and they still use to a certain degree, We have a lot of we have a lot of plants that have natural pesticide abilities or repelling abilities. And bay laurel is one of those plants. I've used it when I've been in the field to rub over my arms and my pants to help keep mosquitoes away from me, because it does help deter mosquitoes. Don't ever put it on your face. I put bay laurel and I put willow. I tend to put it in around my cupboards and around my fruits and stuff that I keep on the counter, because that helps to repel the fruit flies and keep insects out. The essential oils, eucalyptus oil in your vacuum bag when you're vacuuming can help with getting rid of fleas or pulling them up or causing them to leave the area. A lot of people like to use lavender essential oils when they deal with bed bugs. Putting covers on your beds instead of, don't use a chemical on your mattress, not while you're sleeping, not a good idea. There used to be natural regimes such as burning around certain plants that you collect, and that would reduce the pestilence. So if you're collecting acorns and you have a regular regime on burning around areas that you collect, when you collect those acorns in the fall, you're going to bring them into your house. You're not going to end up with a bunch of little acorn worms coming out.
When we do gather, I tell people, please wear long sleeves, okay? Wear gloves if you have to. It's just be aware, and be cautious. If you're in doubt, wear gloves, long sleeve. Don't put it in your mouth. We have to be aware as a gatherers and a weavers what the pesticides are, if there's any drift anywhere. Well, one of the things is to learn your environment where you're going. If you're going to gather, is to get with the forestries, the Cleveland Forest, the state parks, the county parks, the city parks, the private people, and find out where they are and just kind of ask those questions on there. But you always want to do precaution is to wash it anyway.
So part of just being aware of the issues and the impacts is to do some of this research. So look at the types of pesticides that are what pesticides are used in that area, and then be engaged in the different types of management that's happening in your watershed, to know what's being used.
So we try to keep information for our community members here in pamphlets, but we also have a newsletter that we keep out of our department that we list places where people can go and find resources. We also post on the tribe's social pages.
Pesticide exposure, risk, and prevention strategies are extensive. For detailed information, visit the National Pesticide Information Center at npic.orst.edu. Remember, our tribal environmental departments are valuable resources too. They might have additional information and support specific to our needs.
I do consider that the tribe's stewardship over millennia has resulted in the thriving that this place is. The sustenance that it provided was because of the symbiotic relationship of the tribe with the relatives here. And our program is to continue to support that and to ensure that it will be a source of sustenance for into the future.
By working together, we can minimize pesticide risk, protect ourselves, our families, community, and our community members.